there's been no questions, and there's been no statements. So we do have time, to go through the agenda and have these conversations. Just so that you know, if people do come in to the meeting, then they are, and I am happy for them to participate in the conversation if the public was to enter this meeting. So I just want to make sure that you are aware of that, and that's perfectly acceptable. Although nobody's joined us, so at the moment it's just us. So hopefully we'll just go through this. We've done apologies, so we've had no apologies, but as you know, we're missing Christine Townsend and Tony Dyer. Anybody got any declarations of interest? Lisa Durston, please.
Hello. Sorry, it's not a declaration of interest. I just want to say there is somebody waiting in the lobby to come in.
Is there? I've got no. That's not showing up on my screen. Okay.
So somebody called Len Wyatt. Are you happy for me to let them in?
I learn why. I imagine it could be Stephen Lloyd. What do you think?
No, it's Len Wyatt is the chair. Len Wyatt is the chair of the Northern Slopes Initiative.
Yeah. All right, sorry, didn't know who this person was. Yeah, please let them in. Oh, Len Wyatt. I thought you'd actually said sorry about this, Len Wyatt. I thought I heard Learn Wise, so I thought it was a company name. I apologise. Is there any declarations of interest? Okay, so
sorry, Chair, just to interrupt, but just to explain to Len how it works in terms of a member of the public attending. So if you want to speak at any point, you can click the raise button, raise hand at the top of your screen, and the chair has the discretion to allow you to speak if you want to input in any part of the conversation. So wait until the chair confirms your name, and we'll enable your microphone and camera, and you should be able to then turn your microphone on. So we'll let you know once that happens. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Oliver. We also, Len, just so that you know, we are recording this meeting, so hopefully you also know that the meeting is being recorded. So we have no public forums. We're going to move straight on to the first city transport update from Josh Lerner. Is that okay, Josh?
That's fine. Yeah, hi. Thanks. Yeah, I'm Josh Lerner, so I'm the local transport manager, and I look after the area engineering team that I guess deliver the transport schemes that come through the area committee. So I thought I'd just give you a quick update, a verbal update on the existing schemes that we've got live at the moment, and feel free to fire any questions my way after. So most of you know we've made some progress on the long-awaited pedestrian crossings on St Luke's Road and Duckmore. Duckmore Road, Luckwell Road crossing, they're substantially complete. There's some snagging to do on both. On St Luke's Road pedestrian crossing, there has been some reports of some ponding, so we're going to get ETM down there under a defective order to understand why this has happened and to make sure that we get that sorted. They're due to be on site soon to look at that, so that's in motion at the moment. Duckmore Road, the main flux of it is in. It's got a bit of snagging to do with some of the lining, but broadly speaking, it's substantially complete. The Bath Road to Wells Road traffic calming on Angers Road and Stanley Hill, we've just been given a start date for that scheme, which is provisionally the 1st of October, so quite imminent, but that is also a provisional date, and always hesitant to be 100% sure, but we're hopeful that it's imminent, and that's the date we've been given by ETM, which is really positive. The North Street Gaythorne Road safety scheme has been identified as a scheme that we can deliver as part of the SBLN scheme as a quick win or early measure. So we're currently progressing the designs. It's going through the QA process, and we'll be sharing the designs with ward councillors soon on that. But the intention is to get that in spring next year, to enable some of the businesses there to have some outdoor seating as well, and to bring the road safety benefits as well. So that's positive. Cotswold Road is being thought about in the same mindset as the SBLN consultation. So we're hoping to progress that scheme as part of the SBLN as soon as we've heard some more back from the local community there. But the proposal there will tie into the wider scheme for Windmill Hill. I'll stop there. If anyone's got any follow-up questions to that, do let me know. Obviously, we're about to go into the new phase of area committee schemes for 2026, which I'm hoping will be a really kind of good, I guess, a good sort of update to how we do new schemes. I think I'm happy to take any questions on that too. So do just let me know. Otherwise, I'll leave it there. No raised hands, which is positive. Okay, all right. That's it. Then I look forward to it. One thing I will say is that we'll be looking to set up an all councillor briefing for the new mapping tool that we're using for new schemes. As you might have been briefed on, we're going to be asking constituents to log issues and proposals on the street improvements page, which will be a dedicated map for area committee, for the particular area committee, which we'll be using then to compile a report for each area committee, which will tell you what your constituents are saying, and what the priorities are, and then you can agree on the priorities to sort of take forward when we're doing the stage 1 submissions. That will be really helpful for when we're doing workshops in February with residents, which will be a really good platform to use data, hard data, and also data from the mapping process to put together some really good proposals for stage 1 submissions with the residents, and hopefully that'll be a really good upgrade to the process. So I'm optimistic that will be well received. Other than that, thanks for your time.
Lisa, Eleanor, can you just stay on for a couple of minutes if that's all right?
Sorry, Christine.
Can you just stay on for a few minutes if that's all right?
Okay. For what? Sorry.
Ed, you and Ellie.
Well, after the meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
It sounds like you've just finished, Josh. I'm sorry, I was late.
No, I think I'm first on the agenda, Christine. I think there's another agenda.
Okay, first on the agenda.
Sorry.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks.
Well, I might be able to learn what it was that you'd said over the next parts of the agenda. Then maybe we'll see. Because that was all I was wanting to catch up on. All right, I'll shout.
Josh, did you make notes that you can just send of what you just said?
Yeah.
3 or 4, it was just bullet points on the individual schemes, wasn't it? And then something about next time. And then, Christine, you get it straight from the horse's mouth.
Happy to. Yeah.
Christine,
Thanks,
Christine, do you have any questions for Josh? Because it was really just a few minutes bullet points. There was nothing. Didn't really say.
I don't know what they were, so apologies.
But they were just about a couple of schemes: Angus Road, some ponding, St Nick's Road.
It was the existing schemes that have been progressed.
Yeah, zebra crossing.
I'll send an update.
I think the meeting is being recorded, so it would be possible to.
All right. Yeah.
If you were particularly interested, it would be possible to.
Well, I'm interested in Southfield's ones. If I got a feeling about that, but yeah, okay.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Josh. Okay, all right. We were going to move on to Waste Neighbourhood Enforcement Team Verbal Update, which is from Ken. So, Ken, are you happy to give us an update on waste?
Yeah, hi. So I'm Ken Lawson. I'm the head of Waste, Neighbourhood Enforcement and Street Scene. And yeah, I'm here to sort of give you an update and answer any questions. So, I mean, first of all, I think some lessons learned from the start of this financial year. If we start with like weed spraying and herbicide, glyphosate, that sort of thing, the Southville was sprayed by accident by Bristol Waste, and we have rectified that so that now Southville will not be sprayed with herbicide. And we will monitor the weeds in and around the area to make sure they don't become excessive. That is so that's resolved going forward. We also, on the enforcement side, were due to do what we call the waste improvement project, which is the commercial waste project. However, because of staff shortages within the team, we are unable to do that, and we'll be doing that the spring of next year. And we will do some canvassing and get involved in and around the Bedminster, North Street, East Street sort of area on a sort of ad hoc basis, and certainly Councillor Townsend's meeting one of our enforcement area officers in the a couple of points that she has issues with. So we'll be doing that. I don't know if Councillor Townsend, if Michael's reached out to you yet, but if he hasn't, let me know and I'll give him a nudge. Whilst
no, he hasn't.
Okay, well, I'll give him a nudge. Whilst we're talking about sort of the street scene, North Street, East Street, would want to say, following on from Josh, obviously he's sort of on the livable neighbourhood side of the transport planning. I know you may have heard issues that arose in the East Bristol livable neighbourhoods, but we are working with his team to make sure that none of that happens. And it was a lessons learned from both the Bristol Waste side and also the transport planning side, and it was maybe a necessary lesson that was learned, and it won't occur again. So just to let you know, as that project moves forward, that there is connected thinking. Yes, Ed?
What was the lesson that? Yeah, well, don't worry, it's fine.
So
what was the lesson learned? I think it was about accepting that there was a dialogue required rather than that these plans were imposed, isn't it?
Yeah. I think Bristol Waste didn't escalate the issue soon enough, and then transport planners weren't agile in changing, or the project engineers weren't. And then it came to a bit of a furore. Next time, we're going to be linking in with each other throughout the process to make sure that that doesn't happen. So, yeah, hit the nail on the head there. I suppose when we're talking about improving the street scene, we've talked about the waste improvement project. We talked about the livable neighbourhood. One of the projects that we've got that's going to be going to the Environment Sustainability Committee is I'm just putting a slide on screen so you can see it, is the non-standard collection service. I've only got this slide because I did a task and finish group yesterday night, so it was for the Environment Sustainability Task and Finish group. But what we're proposing, if you can see it on screen, is there's around 8,000 properties across the city, which are flats above shops predominantly, where residential bins are stored on the highway or in high streets, and they create issues. Also, people store their boxes and bins on the highway on those sort of high streets, and that becomes an issue. What we're proposing is a sack collection where we have one sack for all dry recycling and a caddy. That will be collected weekly, and at the same time we'll do a sack collection for refuse. We collect it in the back of a split-bodied vehicle, which you can see here, which means we do one pass for those two items, and then we'll have a smaller vehicle do a food waste collection. So that's what we're aiming to do across the city, but in your area, you would see it down East Street and North Street predominantly, and the aim is going to capture more recycling, and we're capturing recycling in a more simplistic way for residents who don't have spacing those sort of above shops premises, and we are enabling them to collect food, and also we'll collect waste in a different way, which hopefully will lead to less street scene issues. There is some funding required for it, which is coming from DEFRA, and we're waiting for clarity on that. But this is something that we're aiming to install and get going sort of first quarter of next financial year. So between April and June, we're aiming to get something going across the city. We are mapping we've got a list of all the properties, and we're looking to introduce that. But it's a positive step to try and address an area of the properties across the city which have maybe been underserviced and also caused disproportionate issues, like on Stapleton Road and some other streets like that. So that's that. With then moving on to general collections. I know that the collections were definitely an issue in East Street, in and around Southfield, Bedminster, Windmill Hill, and we have seen an improvement in the collection systems. The recycling is improving, continuing to improve. The refuse collection has improved. However, what Bristol Waste are currently doing is they're moving into a refurbishment regime where the back end of the refuse truck is metal and waste going in, and the compaction is metal, and it wears out the body of the vehicle at the back, and that is causing operational issues. So Bristol Waste are proactively investing in refurbishing all the vehicles. Now, whilst they've started that regime, we may see some collection delays or issues with some vehicles being off the road, but the long-term fix is started to be in place to resolve that. So that's in place, and that's a positive step to resolve any of those issues. We've also gone through the task and finish group meetings with the Environment Sustainability Committee, and we're talking about vehicle fleet and long-term collection regime. And one of the things that we are looking at is our service provision for narrow roads, and we could call that and so we're bringing in we're looking at how we can optimize our fleet to better accommodate narrow streets and turning circles. And certainly Councillor Fodor is quite passionate to get a list of streets where double yellow line markings are required to enable better turning circles in and around narrow access streets, or where there is parking issues. So if you know of any, please email me and I'll add them to a list that we're taking forward to the highways team to do a TRO on across the city, because parking is one of the biggest things that prevents our crews getting access. Moving on, neighbourhood enforcement. We're working our enforcement team. Councillor Powden.
Sorry, it's me again. I'm hoping that most of the you've got the intelligence within Bristol Waste as to where parking is blocking, and it's not going to be based on anecdote from councillors, but actually evidence from the cab.
You're dead right. The information will come from Bristol Waste, but I have been burnt by relying on one source of information. So asking councillors to come forward with any suggestions is always a good litmus test if Bristol Waste have captured things properly, because it requires crews reporting drop roads because of access, and sometimes all it takes is one crew member not to do that and we could have issues. So I want to avoid that risk. Councillor Freeman.
Just very quickly, I think we've talked about this with the SBLN team, so hopefully we've captured most of them that way, but it's something that we'll bear in mind in this next phase of consultation. Okay, yeah. Okie doke. So moving on, my enforcement team are very much split across commercial waste enforcement, littering, fly tipping, noise, and vehicle dwelling, and a lot of effort is going into the vehicle dwelling at the moment. We are also employees down, but we do have other staff. We do have some
the enforcement members always working in the fly tipping area. If you're aware of any issues with fly tipping that you'd like addressed, just highlight them to the street scene email address, or report them via the new Fix My Street web portal, which we are finding is actually proving a great stimulus for residents to actually report more fly tipping, which is good. So we're driving that up, so that we're able to monitor and manage things. So do you have any updates or questions, Councillor Townsend?
Yeah, about the fly tipping.
Yep.
So when it's what not street scene, Fix My Street says is no, we can't pick it up because it's private land.
Yeah, okay.
But what it doesn't do is say, this is what you now need to do.
Right, okay. There are two types of private land, but we don't publicise that to the public. There is council private land, which I will then engage with the council team who are responsible and look to get removed. And then there's proper private land, which we don't have a duty to pick up from. Now, you're right. We probably do need a little bit of an exclamation of what the next step is there, if that's the bounce back. So I will take that away and liaise with Kurt.
So what it will need then, because this is HRA land, where that was the response.
HRA land. We are looking at what we're trying to do is get the housing officers to report as much as possible, and make it manageable at the moment, because we have with the service cuts from 23, we have an under-resourced fly tip removal round, and the HRA estate isn't part of our business as usual. Now, what I'm doing is working with the HRA estate to come up with a proposal which will mean that we can service their estate and get fly tips removed. But at the moment, we're very much we're managing it on a piecemeal, and I'm actually putting extra money in to try and get that estate, the fly tips, removed in a suitable period. But I'll take that away. Okay. Councillor Durston.
Thank you. On the weeds, can you remind me, is the herbicide, does that contain glyphosate that's used?
Yes. Yeah.
And is there a reason that it can't just be not used everywhere in Bristol? If it can be not used on request in certain areas, can we not just decide not to use it across the whole city? And then if areas do opt out, is anything alternative done with the weeds, or are they just left? Are they managed in a different way?
So the opt-out process is that residents become responsible for the weeds.
Okay.
It unfortunately, like herbicide and the weeding subject, is all very much driven by money, because glyphosate is what we've historically used. Its efficacy is really high. It's easy to discharge in small amounts and kill weeds. And so it is the baseline of our cost model on this. Anything that we do extra over, and especially if we include more manpower, drives up the cost. And when we're, as a council, trying to save money and be more efficient, it's an extra expense in that area. So at the moment, what we've got the opt-out regime, where if you opt out, we encourage residents to become responsible for their area and do de-weeding. However, we are working with the biodiversity team to come up with a council policy, because there was a commitment to half glyphosate by 2030, and we are nearly there already. But there isn't a policy about it. There was just a commitment made with the last regime. So now the policy is being drafted, and then there'll be some action plans underneath that. And some of the actions that we're looking at is how could we use, say, the probation service to dig out and remove weeds as part of their work. How can we trial different things that we can do? So we do hand out electric, like a bit like a strimmer, but they have a brush on the end, a metal brush that brushes away weeds. So we're using that where the vegetation has got big, and the staff, it's more effective than a hoe that they used to use. So we are trialing different things, but there's a cost impact, and there will need to be sort of decisions at the committee level for all of these sorts of things to move forward, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Councillor Stone?
I suppose in a way, I have two questions. First of all, it is about glyphosate. If it is a decision making that this area committee can make, I just answer the question: how is it that Southville is able to not have their Southville sprayed? Because that's what I heard. I might have heard incorrectly, but you said Southville.
It's because I asked them not to, Lisa.
What? All of Southville.
It was sprayed like at the beginning, and it was like, look, don't spray it. We'll do it. The residents will do it. Lots of our streets have opted in.
Mm-hmm.
And if need be, we'll do it if there's really bad areas. The summer has been such that really there's been very little growth because there's been very little water. So in some ways it's been, that's been a positive. But it isn't that we're getting something else that is not available to anyone else. It's just I've basically said we don't want this spraying in our street. Let us deal with it this summer.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to hear, because in my opinion, that's exactly what I want Windmill Hill. So if I can have that, if I can do whatever I need to do, Ken, can you email me and tell me what I need to do to put that into action, so the whole of Windmill Hill is not sprayed, and we get the Windmill Hill residents over a course of a period, and maybe we bring this to the area committee and have it as a whole of an area. Maybe we can think about that for other people on the meeting that may be thinking about doing the same thing. My second question is, Ken, which is diametrically opposite to what I've just said, which is because of climate change, we've got a change in temperature and change in autumn. Basically, autumn's come early, so a load of brambles have grown across cycle paths and public paths, public highways. I've had some emails. So, are your schedules of cutting those back? Is that flexible? Is that moving, or is it static? And that's why a lot of people have sort of emailed me saying they're being ripped to shreds by brambles along cycle paths because they haven't been cut back because the autumn's come early.
So the cutbacks on vegetation is actually a parks service. So if you're talking about cycle paths, we do spraying on the highway, so pavements and back lines, but we don't go down cycle path spraying. Cycle path maintenance is a part of grounds maintenance, which Bristol Waste doesn't do. We do have the big tidy that goes out and does some cutbacks on the housing estate because it's providing a service to them. And it did go back and address things when it was a wider sort of citywide project, but now it's aimed at the housing estate. But it does that as part of digging out litter, digging out detritus. You're talking about cycle paths.
I'm talking about the brambles on the side of the cycle paths. Like for example, there's a load of cycle paths that I cycle down, and I'm always constantly having to dodge the brambles because they haven't been cut back. I think they're highways. I'm not too sure whether or not that's parks. And I've been told it's Bristol Waste. So I'm being ping-ponged as usual.
Well, I will take that away and come back to you, because like if there's litter on a cycle path, that's Bristol Waste. If there's leaf matter on a cycle path making it slippy, that's Bristol Waste. If it is brambles overgrown, and for example, my commute into Bristol takes into part the bit of the Bath to Bristol cycle path, and there was a lawnmower that went down and cut back all the shrubbery, and there was trimmers and all of that sort of thing that they were undertaking that work because it was similar to what you're talking about. That wasn't Bristol Waste. That was parks. So there is an overlap. it's a bit like the grass verges you see on a motorway, on the roads around the city. That's parks that cut those back. It isn't Bristol Waste, and the overlap gets a bit frustrating because you might have a load of litter in one of those overgrowth bits, and it all gets cut back, and then the litter gets shredded to pieces, and then it's more, and then it's all on us to clear it up. And we need to work better as a unit to not cause those sorts of issues. But my understanding is it's parks, and I'll come back to you on that.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? No. Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time, and I'll see you in 3 months.
Thank you, Ken. That's great. Thank you very much. Okay. All right. So thank you. We're going to move on to Susie Feltham, who's going to give us a parks update. So Parks and Green Spaces Verbal update. So Susie Feltham, if you're around.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Yeah, thanks.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Richard isn't here this evening, so I'll give an update. I'm just going to read off his notes in regards to the area in regards to grounds maintenance. So I will just start with that. He refers to the council's presentation, to the presentation he did to the councillors last week. Our plan is to provide access to a map that sets out what features we maintain, where these are, and what the maintenance regime is that applies to them. We are rolling out a modernised system of issuing grounds maintenance work to operational staff and giving them the ability to sign off completion of tasks live on site. This has been rolled out in the south of the city. North is being rolled out now, and central and east is next. The end product should be an ability to identify where the council is in terms of meeting its performance expectations on grounds maintenance. I'm not able to set a date when this will be completed, as we have to be confident it is working at a city-wide scale. It's expected summer 2026. There are communications risks we have to deal with. Issuing the information cannot result in an uplift in inquiries from the public, as we will not be able to handle this with existing resources. Grounds maintenance performance is highly influenced by weather conditions. When the resource base is fixed, as it is, we will also have fluctuations in resources, staff absence, and fluctuations at an ad hoc work, such as fly tipping, that teams are asked to pick up. Although we will generally meet our targets over the course of a year, at any given time, we may be ahead or behind our schedule. The main driver for change in terms of our grounds maintenance regimes is the need to manage 30% of the council land for nature. This target stems from the Ecological Emergency Declaration and Action Plan. This will require changes to the management regime in sites across the city. We will target or propose changes in sites that sit within the Strategic Local Nature Recovery Network, as this will result in the best biodiversity outcomes. We are already implementing our Managing for Nature pilot project, funded by the Combined Authority, to a number of sites in the central, east and north areas. We have information about the project and our approach online. The shift to Managing for Nature will mean we update our grounds maintenance regimes and map data that you will have access to. I will often consult with communities about change, but not in all cases. I will keep you informed of changes at the area committee meetings at the area committee meeting intervals set out. Support to help make decisions on allocation of SIL. As presented last week, it was a couple of weeks ago now, we aim to provide map-based data on grounds maintenance as above and condition of assets, starting with play assets the open space provision standards for different types of space, for example, play space, adopted in parks and green space adopted in the parks and green space strategy, and information on where we have invested in sites over the last 5 years. So with funds allocated by our committees and strategic still allocated by cabinet and committee, this will enable you to see where there are the gaps in investment. Is there any questions? Elisa?
Okay, yeah. I know that you talked about grounds. There's lots of paths that isn't really, it doesn't really matter about if you're talking about grounds as in grass and hedges and flowers and stuff like that, then paths aren't really subjected to seasonal differences. So what's the schedule for our paths to be maintained? Because I know the ones in Victoria Park need some work done on them ASAP.
Is this work as in resurfacing work?
Yes, resurfacing.
Yeah, when because I'm not from the maintenance side, unfortunately, I can't really answer that accurately. I know that we are surveying paths throughout the city, throughout the city's parks, should I say, in green spaces, and there is usually an amount of money that is put for maintenance of paths, but I'm not entirely sure where it sits at the moment. So in terms of what paths, I know that they are surveyed and there's a big long list of which ones need maintaining, but I think I'd have to take that back and provide an answer from Richard if it can be put in the transcript. That's right.
Yeah, maybe I'll send an email as well. And also if people want to send emails to Richard about if you notice your paths and your parks that need to be maintained. So just get a list of paths and parks and send them to Richard if that's possible.
I mean, they are being surveyed. That's what I'm saying. They are surveyed. So we do have a big long list. I just don't know about the resource to maintain them. I know that there was insufficient money to maintain them. Then there is paths that need maintenance, if you like, but I don't know how it's allocated. So
no, I understand that, Susie. But it's like all these things, you can survey it on the 1st of October, and then a week later we have cracks, and so that path is surveyed as fine, but it's actually not, because at that point in time it's fine, but a week later it's now got cracks in. Because I've noticed in a very short period of time cracks has emerged all over Victoria Park. So if it was surveyed three months ago, then it will come up as okay, but actually these paths need maintaining. And they're almost to a point where they're unsafe. Well, they are unsafe completely.
Okay.
So again, if you feel the need, please send emails to Richard Fletcher.
It might be better to put it through the problems in park if it's going to be a lot of them. It might actually be sort of, on the website there's report issues in parks. It's like Fix My Street, but for parks.
Okay. All right, okay.
I think that might be probably more responsive at this stage. There's a lot of them.
Okay, thank you for that, Susie. Rob.
Yes, just on play equipment in parks. Just to checking you're aware, we have a slightly delayed bit of ping pong between parks and property colleagues around our SIL bid for the No West Health Park, around who would support the development, so that the bid made progress. I think it has been accepted, the role that parks need to play in that now, but I think the consequence is it's taken longer to get that bid to the second stage than it would have done. Is that something you're aware of?
Yeah, and I'm going to update in a minute after these questions on the. I was going to do it. I mean, I don't mind which order I do it, but I was going to do the current projects that are on the ground at the moment, and then I was going to go through the SIL bids as well, and just say what stage they are and who's presenting them. But yeah, Rob, I am putting a stage 2 in from Parks, and that's been discussed. Yeah.
Thank you.
Just to say that Len White has his hand up. If you would like him to speak at any point, Chair, just let us know and we'll unmute.
Yeah, please. Yeah, Len White, please come. Please speak. Please ask your question.
Just hold on a minute, then. We just need to unmute you to be able for you to unmute yourself.
You should be able to unmute yourself now.
Okay, how's that?
Yep.
Yeah,
perfect.
Great, thanks. So my name is Len Wyatt. For this meeting, I was interested in this update, and I work as a volunteer on the Northern Slopes in Fieldwood Ward. This is a personal view, not a relative to that, but I'm just wondering if there is a way of communicating changes, not just on a digital map, but often if you're volunteering, it can be quite difficult to understand what's happening when within the year. And I'm very lucky, this is a compliment, to have a parks officer who I do my best to understand, and he does his best to try and understand me. And for those of you that are councillors that know me, you know how difficult that can be. However, thanks for the smile there. There's 2 councillors smiling. That's really good. However, it takes a lot of work on both of our sides. It really does. And it means a lot of understanding and trying to sort things out. Is there a way of alerting at least volunteer parks groups to changes over a period such as a month or even 2 months in advance without trying to cause extra work for POCS officers involved in that sort of work? And that's the question. I'm not looking for an answer. It's just struck me sitting here that I'm doing a lot of work trying to understand the council, and they're doing their best with me. And it may be easier to do, so we say, changes to maintenance regimes, area committee 7, or whatever, geographical area you want, and copy in parks volunteers as well, so they know what's coming. I don't know how practical that is. I can't tell you what the pros and cons are, but it's just a thought I've had. Thank you. I'll turn myself off.
Thank you, Len. Susie, any thoughts on that, changing on updating community partners when we're updating maintenance regimes?
I know Richard's spoken about this at other area committees about this, and saying that we are, because they're with the nature recovery and the maintaining parks for nature conservation, there are going to be changes in the way we do manage them. And I'm just trying to, I remember him sort of saying that we are endeavouring to update people more regularly. It's difficult in some areas, but that is something that we are working towards. And I know that in terms of the area committee proposals, we are looking to provide a lot more data, I suppose, and information about what we do in parks, and that is one of them that we're looking to. I mean, it's like you said, Len, in your kind of question, really, that it's, it can be difficult when things are changing quite regularly, but we do have plans for, when we are changing our regimes. So I think it's how we do that is probably still a work in progress, but I think it is something that we're looking to do to be more get the information that is within parks out there more, basically.
Okay, thank you, Susie. Susie, could I mean, if we were to go into, first of all, are there any more questions for Susie on parks?
Do you want me to go through the current projects that are on the ground at the moment?
Yeah, I just want to check with Julia. I've got on the agenda discussion on community chest, discussion on location of in-person meeting, discussion on local priorities. Are we going to go through our stages? Are we going through the stage 1 and stage 2 priorities? No. So we're not.
No, the local priorities was if you wanted to have a discussion about the local priorities as councillors
going forward.
Yeah.
Okay, so Susie, yes, please run down your proposed stage 2 proposals. That'd be great. The things that are happening on the ground, as you were going to say, as you suggested.
Yeah, is that okay? Yeah. So so there's quite a few that we've got going at the moment. Ashton Vale, these basically the updates. I'm just going to update the updates that were sent out in August time. So just to let you know what how it's happening. So with the Ashton Vale play area, I know that this is still with you, Councillor Clark and Freeman, in terms of finding somewhere for the play area. With the Ashton Vale playing fields, which was a project that was the bid was to install a path, which wasn't possible, and due to the lack of viable space to fit the footpath next to the pitches, we proposed to put a fence along to basically to make it more of a fenced park rather than fenced space, green open space, rather than there was some scaffolding that was put there by the football organisers to stop. I think there was some traveller activity on the site, so to stop illegal entry onto the site. And we're going to put a formal fence, a boundary fence onto the park with an entrance and maintenance entrance and pedestrian entrance in the form of a chicane through there with an archway over it to make a nice formal entrance to the open space. And that is I think that's going out to tender shortly. So that's going to be happening this winter. Victoria Park, the new toddler swings. Sorry.
So I just gonna say on that one, I think it included signage as well, did it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Signage as well. Yeah, for the open space. Yeah. Also Victoria Park, the toddler swings, which that's looking to be tendered shortly, I think. It's ordered shortly, because I think we've just got some quotes on it because it's quite a relatively small project on its own. So that's going to be delivered this autumn, hopefully. So it's not a big we're not going through a big procurement process on that one. The play and skate rationalization of the space, so the design and the money that was going through the actual infrastructure improvements, the tenders being drawn up. It's in the last stages of being drawn up, and that should go out to tender fairly shortly as well, because we need to, the window is quite small for the planting side of it, so we're trying to get that out as soon as possible. Catherine's working on that so that the planting can be done this season. The rewilding.
Ed,
oh, sorry.
I was going to say, is it going to happen this year? But then Susie answered that question, so I'll shut up.
Yeah. Well, that's the aim, is this planting season. So and the rest of the work, the swings and everything definitely are, but they're going to be it's being tendered separately. So the planting's going to be tendered separately to the swings, so as not to delay one with the other.
So we're hoping that all of it will happen this winter season.
Yes.
All three projects, the kind of the swings and equipment at the bottom, the whatever you called it, rebalancing project, and the swings at the top.
Yeah.
Great.
The rewilding project, I haven't had an update myself actually about that, but I know that you probably have yourselves, because VPAG are organising that one.
The main update was that they did loads and loads of hard work, planted loads of things. They were just coming out the ground, and then the great big industrial mower came and mowed it all down again.
Yeah, let's not go into that though. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
No, there were reasons. We've got to the bottom of it, and we're going to learn from it and move forward.
Okay. Dame Emily Park, the park improvements project. There's just one outstanding part of this project, which is the sculpture for the mining sculpture, which is, there's been some engagement with local school children this September, and just working with the artist in terms of what they need to secure the actual position of the sculpture. But that's going forward now, and that's it for the updates. Is there any more questions?
Yeah, I've got a quick one before we go into main questions. There's an update on Home Green. Can you just quickly update us on Home Green Stage 2? Because there's for the Equitable Fund. The Home Green Stage 2, yeah, great.
Yeah. So I have, because this is one of the equity funds projects, isn't it? So I did submit a proposal for that. And we spoke about it, Lisa, didn't we? So that's yeah, it's been submitted stage 2 form now.
Okay, all right, yeah. So just to clarify, so it has been submitted and the proposal's gone through, which is fine, but there's as this does happen at these stages, there has been an increase in funds for that project, and I just wanted to make sure that people were aware of that.
Oh, I see. Okay, sorry. Yeah, there has been, because there was I think the funding was requested by the community, wasn't it, how much it was going to be, but it's going to be delivered by the Park Service. So we've added on kind of our fees and in terms of access and everything, sort of make it kind of accessible tarmac path to the seating and things, which which has increased the price.
Are there any questions?
No. Okay.
Okay, well, thank you, Susie. If there's no questions about the update on that, that's fine. So we can move on to other department verbal updates. Julia, can you maybe explain that?
Yeah, just got one verbal update from the community asset transfer. So this is from Peter Anderson, Director of Property Assets and Infrastructure. Just to let you know, there is no new surplus. We are soon taking a paper around for disposal, but this relates to commercial area, and there are no new community asset transfer updates or applications from the Community Asset Transfer Board. That's it.
All right, okay. So I think we quickly just have a very small discussion, if possible, on discussion on the community chest, because I don't know whether we want as a group of councillors, as a committee, we want to go forward, keep on going forward with the idea of having some form of community chest, where a CIC or a organisation has a sum of money which they can set aside, which they can dispose of to small projects, because we know how difficult small projects are to if we're going through this process of sale. Has anybody got any questions or want to have any questions about that? Lisa?
Sorry, can you where does the actual money come from for the community chest?
This is a proposal for next year. So next year it will be from sale. It'll be from sale, civil infrastructure levy. And it's not obviously now, it's for something going forward, where we can somehow derive, if we can, with the officers, to formulate some kind of like system in where we can decide, I don't know, £10,000 goes to a particular CIC or group or organisation, who then will deliver or help deliver proposed projects, small proposed projects, £500 to 1,000 projects across South Bristol.
But so they
Emily.
would they? Oh, sorry. Would they be infrastructure projects, or they could just be community projects, or?
Well, this is something we will have to discuss with officers to find out, but it would be under the CIC, it would be infrastructure. It'd be same as, but instead of, say, for example, parks putting in a bench, if we can get, say, for example, we're giving an example of a table tennis table. So if we can get the specifics for a table tennis table, okay, yeah, right, then actually, you know, VPAG or the community can put in that table tennis table, as long as it fulfills the terms and conditions specifics for that table tennis table. So we don't have to go through parks to deliver small projects. Same for planters. I think previously, I remember, you know, planters had specifications. As long as you bought or paid for, built the planter in those specifications, then we could put them in under the guidance of highways and etc. So, because remember, parks are suggesting that they don't do projects less than £20,000, and I'm trying to figure out how we can go forward with small projects across the community where we can, like, you know, circumnavigate parks and transport. Lisa, do you want to come back on that?
Yeah, I'm just trying to sort of work out how it would work in practice, sort of particularly thinking about sort of Philwood and whether, you know, the smaller organisations would have the sort of capacity to certain things. They would, you know, they definitely would be able to, but whether they'd actually be able to put those things in themselves, if you know what I mean, without parks coming along and putting them in for them.
I agree. That's why it's a conversation. So
yeah,
okay. Just having a conversation. Emily?
Was Julia going to respond to Lisa on that? If so, you can do that.
Thank you. I was just going to say that the new thinking around looking at the community workshops and also working with parks and transport more closely and around those local priorities, and then through the data as well, and thinking about the themes. So perhaps it is bringing those smaller projects together collectively and increasing them as bigger proposals. And I think that's why what Transport and Parks have been talking about for next year, to see how that goes, to see how, you know, working more collaboratively together and identifying proposals and ideas early and doing them more collectively to see if that would work. Thanks, Emily.
Oh, and my question was related to that. It was just, is there a precedent so far within the council? Have we seen how it's worked, or is this something that other area committees are looking at, and have we got committed officer time if we were to do it? Like, it's, yeah.
Julie, do you want to come back on that?
Yes, there hasn't been any conversations around a community chest or how that could work going forward. So I think there would have to be further conversations. From the conversations that we have been having over the last 6 months, it's about looking at your local priorities, that local knowledge that you have, working with departments around the data that they are obtaining from the different websites that they talked about in the all councillor briefing, and then using those community workshops to come together to look at that and identify key themes that can be worked around. So at the moment, there hasn't been anything around a community chest, and I'm not sure about resource right now.
Ellie?
I just wanted to say that it has been done in the past, which is how we got notice boards up on some of the streets around me. But obviously that was probably about 10 years ago now. But there has been precedent, and it was brilliant as a resident or a local organisation. It was really easy and straightforward to get a really small pot of money. I think you just had to get a few quotes. But for something like a notice board where it's, you know, a few £100 or whatever, then it was so much easier than going through a long-winded thing. And I think I'd really love us to be able to get to that point where people see something small that they want to do, and we are enabling or facilitating that in some way. I can totally see the kind of collective idea of getting bids together to make it more feasible. I think that could really work. But I also think perhaps people are a bit more aware of processes now, and there are more local organisations, so it's sort of tapping into what's there already within the community and sort of making the most of them as well.
Julia, do you want to come back on that?
Thank you. So perhaps this is a further conversation. I mean, it'd be really good to work together with people who are interested to think about these ideas and see. You know, we're going through a process at the moment. We're seeing if that works. It's an iterative process. So, yeah, can we work together and look at this?
Yeah, I personally think that we should work together. I don't see why we can't do both. We can't have, let's say, if we want to put in some park benches right across all parks across South Bristol, then that could be a collective, looking at the data-driven information, and then we can ask parks to do that. But if it's putting a notice board specifically in your area, it's a one-off, then why not have a community chest that's also provided? Why not have both? I don't understand the reasons why we can't have both, to be honest with you. If we can just try and get some kind of I don't know, maybe a proposed if we can have some ideas of how we go about doing this, and maybe look at other areas, or going back to 10 years ago, Ellie, when it was happening, and see what sort of process was happening then, and maybe we can have conversations again with the officers in the background to see if we can put it forward. Okay, is everybody happy with that? Okay, on next is the location of the in-person meeting. Okay, so first of all, I want to clarify the date and the time of the meeting. So we did the poll. Tony's come back as well. It's Monday, the 3rd of November. That's when we are going to be having the meeting, Monday, the 3rd of November. So from the poll, everybody came back saying they could make Monday, the 3rd of November. It's going to start at 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. We had asked for it to be in the community, and we've been told that the Norwest Media Centre is not available on that day, so we cannot go there. I've called this afternoon the Windmill Hill Community Association, and they also are not available on that day. So I'm going to ask if Ellie or Christine, do you have any ideas of possible venues for Monday the 3rd of November between 5 and 8, to be honest with you, because we need to be open half hour earlier and close half hour later.
I'm sure there's places that we could inquire about. We've got a few venues in our ward. I'm sure Emily and I can put our heads together. are there any requirements from the council side? Do we need to make sure it's got it's accessible, got a toilet? You know, what are the things that we need to make sure it has before we do that ring round?
There are requirements. If I go back to previous, which I probably don't have, there are requirements. Julia, can you put those requirements as you did with me before in the chat?
The chat's turned off, but I can read through them.
Oh, okay. Julie's going to read through the requirements.
They need to have access to internet and a projector screen that links to laptop for presentation and ability to plug in devices for all councillors and officers, ability for venue to seat all officers and councillors with additional seating for members of public, fully accessible venue with accessible bathroom, level access, doorways wide enough for an electric wheelchair, lift if required, access to an upper or lower floor, good acoustics in space, which doesn't require the use of audiovisual equipment, to be opened in agreed hours of the meeting with on-site staff present, and heating if required in winter, and public must be able to come and go within this time when they want to, with clear signage to be able to access the meeting, access to parking or on-street parking nearby, and good public transport links. And those were sent around, so I can resend them out to you as well.
Sorry, I probably missed that. And is there a budget for that?
There is a small budget. Ideally, the sooner that it can be booked, because it obviously has to go through a process to get that funding secured.
Rob?
Only question is there a particular reason why it's the November meeting that is the one that is identified for a community location? Because I think the issue that we have had with sort of by the time we'd worked out we were going to ask the North West Media Centre, we'd already decided the date that was the right date for us, which happens not to be the right date for them. But if we were looking at a future date, we'd probably have time to work those things out. But so I mean, if Ellie can find an appropriate place for the next meeting, absolutely brilliant. But I do worry that we're making it a bit difficult for ourselves by committing to a specific time for the November meeting.
I do get what you're saying, Rob. We will definitely have better knowledge of dates next year. I think they're going to be well planned in advance. Okay, yeah, because this is a new process that we're going through with this system. So, and of course, we don't have to. We can go back to the North West Media Centre for next year's May meeting, or stage 1 May meeting, or stage 2 meeting next year. It was unfortunate that we couldn't quite clarify dates close to, clarify these dates earlier on. And and there is a proposal that we just do it at City Hall this time round, and then we start off with these location meetings next year. Now we know it's going to be more, more planned out in advance, so there'll be static dates in advance, I hope. However, there's no reason why, if we can get a community venue, because we can come back to North West Media Centre, no problem, in the future, that we can't just go into the community anyway. That's how I feel. Julia, do you want to come in on that?
Okay, I was just going to say the same in terms of it doesn't need to be November, and as the new cycle starts in May, perhaps that would be a better time for you for the community meeting.
However, ongoing, how I see it is that we go into the community, but if that's something, because it was something that we had decided, obviously, in the last decision-making meeting back before, that we were going to use Philwood, because it's mainly about Philwood that we're going to be doing this civil infrastructure levy money going towards. But in the future, it's all about trying to take the city hall or this committee into the community as many times as we can. This is not just one time, it's like all the time if we could. Juliet?
Thank you. And just a reminder of the community workshops that will be in March as well. Those will, we aim for those to be in the community as well.
Okay, so to clarify, it's the 3rd of November, between 5 o'clock and 8. If there's any possibility that somebody could get a provisional booking for a place in the community, that would be great. Faster rather than slow, as in, you know, by the end of the week would be good. However, if we can't, then we can do it at City Hall, okay, and then we can plan more appropriately and more efficiently and effectively for next year, or the next round of these SIL projects.
We'll do our best to find something. I think we've got a couple of options in Bedminster, and I'll fire off an email this evening and get the ball rolling.
Thank you, Annie. Discussions on local priorities. Okay, do we have any local priorities? I imagine that. Do you want to kick that off, Julia? Just an intro would be great.
Yeah, this was just an open space for councillors to discuss their local priorities, thinking about the year ahead, thinking about perhaps particularly around parks and transport, so that can feed into that data-driven information that they'll be providing you later on or the beginning of next year.
I suppose that I'm going to kick off. So the only one I'm concerned about is community asset transfers and properties, because it doesn't seem to be a lot going on there, and I kind of want an update, more of an update from them, as in what is going on with community asset transfers. How can we, you know, look at all of our properties? Could we have a more? We just need to. I personally think we need some more information about what is happening with community asset transfers and how the area committee can feed into that. Into whatever it is that we're meant to be doing where that's concerned. Anybody else have any questions or want to feed in? Eddie?
I was just thinking for our area, it's a bit tricky because obviously in the past there's been a lot of emphasis, or currently there's a lot of emphasis on transport and parks, and we've got the SBLN coming in. So until we sort of know what that looks like, I don't think we'd be able to identify stuff there. But yeah, I mean, I think there's always room for investment in parks, and that was, you know, Emily and I have both had that as a sort of priority in terms of play and green spaces. So that's something that I'd always want to be sort of high up the list for our area.
Thank you, Eddie. Lisa, did you want to say something?
I did, but then I think I misunderstood. Actually, I'm not quite sure what we're meant to be bringing to this item of the meeting in terms. Do you mean like local priorities that we'll be thinking about in terms of SIL, or just sort of generally?
Well, how I see it is that it is in terms of SIL, and whether your local priorities are parks, whether they're transport, it's like I'm saying, it's community asset transfers and how we can, because we are meant to be, you know, feeding into or helping or deciding on community asset transfers. And I want to know where's that going, what's happening there, because we're not getting a lot of information about community asset transfers or about properties here at the area committee. Yeah. And about parks and how we're going to maintain our parks going forward, and how that, you know, whether, you know, and transport. I mean, at the moment, that's just those three things, isn't it, really?
I mean, I would say all of those things are probably priorities to us in forwards at the moment, particularly on the kind of maintenance front of things. There's a lot of work that needs doing on roads and pedestrian safety and parks maintenance and improvements.
Yeah, Julie, do you want to come in on that?
Thank you. Yeah, I suppose it's just thinking about the specific details within those areas within transport or within parks, what your priorities might be for next year, so that that can really help shape those proposals coming through, so that when for instance transport is able to provide information around the data that's been collected, you can use your local knowledge to help work with that and to think about those themes of what you might want to see coming forward in terms of proposals for next year.
Okay, thank you.
Emily?
Yeah, I mean, this maybe isn't a comment for this meeting really, but I was just thinking on the transport side, like we have got priorities in the ward for sure, like things that we want to see, and for a long time we've been sending those to the SBLN team, and I think, yeah, it'd just be good to make sure that those are being captured for the wards and that we can have those come to this meeting if they are like, you know, relevant to, or if they fall under the remit of stuff that we could be looking at as an area committee. Just because I think a lot of information's gone there already.
Yeah, I think we're trying. Thank you, Emily. I think it's really difficult because there's some changes with the area committee about how we can influence what's going on. So highways, transport, parks, and properties, or asset or properties or area or transfers are things that are meant to be coming towards the area committee. But how we feed into that, I'm not sure. And I think we need more information about what it is that we're meant to be doing. As far as what we do know is that we are meant to be here to provide a conduit with our communities on how they can use the civil infrastructure levy and projects. So when we go into our community meetings next year, the next iteration, it's like taking the information that we're being given, that data-driven information that's coming from, say, transport or parks or whatever, and try and establish how we can build a project with that also that other information that we can, in a way, sort of like manipulate the community. Not manipulate, I don't mean that. I mean, try and help the community to see that if we could put a swing in a toddler swing in every single park across South Bristol, and not just the one, say, for example.
But I guess I was just thinking, if you were to ask me what are my priorities from a transport perspective, I would say, well, probably safety, but there's so much information that I have now given to the Liverpool Neighbourhood team, where anyone over the past 2 years, or not 2 years, since I've been elected, has emailed me a safety issue, I have then reported that. So they should have a lot of information. And I just think if we're going through talking about those things, it'd be helpful if they could give us the data that we've given to them, but also they've captured from the conversations they've been having in communities and, as part of the consultations. Because I think there's a lot of information there. I just don't want to reinvent the wheel. We know what the issues are. We've told them. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else for anything else? Okay, all right. There's no any other business, and so the last thing on the agenda is the date of the next meeting, which we now know, which is the 3rd of November, Monday the 3rd of November at 5:30. Venue to be confirmed. So we're not too sure about the venue at the moment, but hopefully Ellie might come back with something for us for that meeting. Fingers crossed. Where we'll be going through the stage 2 proposals and that will be a decision-making meeting. Okay, so the next meeting is in person and it's a decision-making meeting. So if there's nothing else, I think we can bring it to an end. Okay. Everybody happy?
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.